Hello, my name is Dominic Ponton and I welcome you to Invite an Expert. Today, I invited Mr. Ingo Stenner. He's been working for Chesterton for over 28 years and he's an application engineer for lubrications and maintenance operation products. Hello, Ingo. How are you doing?
Hey Dominic, glad to be here.
Good, good. Hi, Ingo. So, you want to talk about something today. What do you want to talk about?
I think the main focus today will be the steel industry, and I would like to focus on bearing lubrication in rolling mills,
hmm
cold rolling mills, but also hot rolling mills.
Okay. Now, give us an idea of what can happen in this specific industry or this specific application here, Ingo.
I think this video shows a good bit. The steel is actually getting rolled. It's actually put under very, very heavy pressure. That heavy pressure will also be transmitted to the bearings, and therefore the bearings are actually under extreme load. Under this extreme load, you can imagine that the bearing will experience some wear.
Okay.
Furthermore, when you talk about hot rolling mills, the lubrication of the bearing, we typically talk about greases here. The greases will be exposed to high temperature. Commodity greases will not be able to hold that oil under high temperature. The oil will run out. The thickener of the grease is actually not a lubricant. The thickener is actually quite abrasive. So that means it actually will promote wear even more.
Sure.
And when you talk about high temperature, you have higher wear, higher abrasion. It will also see that the rest of the grease will actually start to carbonize. And that is what you see in this picture, where
hmm
you have this lumpy, sticky residue. And that will actually cause some interruption in the production because the bearing is not running very smoothly anymore.
Okay, Ingo. So we have this example here with the grease, the lubrication failure. What else can happen? We have heat. We have water. What other issues do we have here specifically?
Yeah, in the initial video, you could see there's a lot of water present. Water can be used for quenching, can be used for cooling. But when the water gets into the bearing housing, the water can actually make sure that the bearing starts to corrode. And when that happens, the grease is a last resort of protection. And therefore, the grease needs to protect against corrosion to make sure that the bearing is actually not failing.
Wow. Okay. Now, good that you showed us this. The bearing is completely contaminated, but also corroded. So you have issues in the production there. What kind of solutions
Absolutely.
does
You
Chesterton
know,
have to solve this here?
First of all, when you have issues in production,
Yeah.
when you have the runnability is not doing very well anymore, there's a lot of cost. And what they typically do is, they have a second set of bearings beside it, and they need to replace the first bearings and put the
Okay.
second set on so that the bearings can be cleaned. But this can happen every second week, every third week. And you can imagine to take they're big bearings, to take them off, it takes a good bit of time. And during that time, you have a production shutdown. Production shutdowns can be 25,000 euros, 30,000 euros, 40,000 euros. It can be a lot of money which they're missing, which they're losing here.
Wow. So good that you explained that. Now, Chesterton has solutions out there that can help prevent things like this happening. Can we talk about that today?
Absolutely. We sat together with the customer to see how can we actually support the customer to actually save money, to actually increase productivity. And we came up with four key points. The first key point is extreme pressure protection.
hmm
The grease, the lubricant, needs to be able to withstand heavy, heavy loads so that the bearing will actually run smoothly. In particular, for hot rolling mills, the grease also needs to be able to withstand high temperature. High temperature so that the thickener will hold the oil, it's not running out. The Chesterton 615 family can actually hold the oil up to 300 degrees Celsius, the thickener.
Wow.
Carbonization is minimized under these application conditions. And the third point is it has the best-in-class corrosion protection.
Okay, so what? So we have one, two, three. I know we have another feature that's very, very important, and that's that other competitors are manufacturers of lubrications don't have. Maybe you can explain us a little bit more in detail about that.
Absolutely. And I'm actually proud about that we actually developed this. We call it the QBT, Quiet Bearing Technology. And what it does is every bearing is quite rough, even though if you call it think it's smooth, there's always some roughness on the surface. On the quiet bearing technologies, there are additives who are plating themselves on top of the rough surface to make it more smooth. Therefore, when the bearing is running, you can actually hear that. You can hear that the bearing is running smoother. And this is why we call it the quiet bearing technology. If you do vibration analysis, you can actually measure that immediately. And I think this is a very, very critical point, in particular for fast running bearings.
Okay, perfect. This sets Chesterton apart when you compare us to different kind of lubrication manufacturers. Now,
Yeah,
I know that you prepared also some examples, some real cases.
absolutely.
Let's talk about that, Ingo.
Absolutely. I have loads of cases. I have loads of experience there. I picked a case from Italy. It's a hot rolling mill, exactly what we described here with quenching water.
Mhm.
The bearings, you can see they're quite big bearings they're using there. They're taking them off every second week to actually clean them because they had corrosion on the bearing. You could see when they clean it, they had corrosion. It means the quench water went into the bearing housing, causing some corrosion. When you looked at the grease, when you took the bearing off, the grease became quite lumpy, very black. Carbonization was present there.
Yeah.
And also this, you could see that, needed to make sure that they remove that because the runnability of the bearing was actually not smooth anymore. And they decided to actually run it with 615 family. In this case, it was a 615 460. 460 stands for the viscosity of the base oil. And they run it with 615 460. And after a while, they took it off and they could actually see that the bearings had no corrosion at all. It means the bearings were protected against corrosion fantastically.
So if we
On
look at
this,
so if we look at this picture just real quick, this
yeah,
is how it looks if you have this grease failure basically, and
exactly.
the end result will
Exactly.
basically be also this part right here, right?
Absolutely. That picture showed, the commodity grease, how it became lumpy.
Yep.
Absolutely. And when you're using 615 for 60, the corrosion protection was unbelievable. And what the experience was then, they could double the production time until they actually had to replace the bearings. They doubled that, and therefore they saved thousands and thousands of euros because they didn't have an extra shutdown to replace the bearings. Furthermore, what they could see as well is they actually needed to use less grease. They didn't need to put on so much grease anymore, and the grease consumption got reduced by 75%.
Wow, amazing number right there. So
Absolutely.
the end result is this here. Let's see it. Double the lifetime and everything like that. So all good things, all good stuff. Ingo, thanks a lot for your time. Thanks a lot for making us or giving us a better understanding of what's really going on in this specific industry. Do you have any kind of final comments that you would like to share with the viewers?
Yeah, thank you, Dominic. Thank you for being here. Yeah, the final comment is really, we talk about bearings. There could be big bearings, there could be small bearings. Bearings might be small, maybe small also in the how you perceive as a part of the equipment. But the bearings have a huge impact on the whole production. And if a bearing is not running, the production is not running either. So make sure if you lubricate a bearing, choose wisely the right lubricant.
Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot, Ingo. And thanks a lot for you guys watching this Invite an Expert today. And see you next time and have a great day. Thanks a lot, Ingo.
Thank you. Bye bye.